You are now listening to Playbook Radio. Here is your host, Martin Williams.
And welcome to Playbook Radio. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You may do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. All the links to the podcast can be found at gameplanplaybook.com. That's gameplanplaybook.com. So today what I wanted to talk to you about is the importance of having a mental plan. A mental plan. So whenever you go into a day, go into any situation, whatever that situation may be, there are things that are waiting for you that maybe you're not aware of, right? And so there's two types of things waiting for you. There's the known, the things that you expect to happen, and then there's the unknown, the things that you're not expecting. So you want to have a plan for both, right? Because top performers have a plan for the known and they have a plan for the unknown. And it doesn't have to be some long drawn out plan because we all have a finite amount of time, right? So we can't spend every waking moment planning, but it does help to have a plan because it puts us at ease, it gives us more confidence and so on. And, in the game of life and in athletics and sports, every coach equips his team with a game plan, okay? Because that plan is something that you can trust not only when the outcome is known, but you can also trust it when it's unknown. So when you have a plan, let's say that you're in business or you're in sales, you're thinking about all the different outcomes. And, you may be calling on someone and you say to yourself, there's multiple ways that this can go. You can get the sale, which means that the client says, yeah, I'm interested. Let me sign up for that. You may get a let's wait and see answer from the client, or you may get a flat out no. So obviously the most desired outcome is the sale, but you got to have a plan for all three outcomes, right? You got to have a plan for all three situations. So if the client says, I'm not really sure, I need more time. What most sales trainers teach is you want the client to make a decision right then and there, because the moment you walk out of the door and that client hasn't decided, it's a low likelihood that that client is going to end up signing with you, right? If the client says no, then what sales trainers teach is overcoming objections, right? So if the client says no, then you ask them why, or something along those lines. Why would you say no? Or what is it about the offer that's not appealing to you? And the client usually will say something like cost, or they'll say something like, it's not something that I need. And then part of your sales training is to overcome objections. So you're ready for those things. It's all part of planning. Oftentimes what happens is that people are not prepared for that. They're not prepared for no, and then, they basically fall apart, right? But when you have a plan, you can stay the course and you can, essentially remain calm and get through the call and maybe even rescue the sale, right? Because sometimes when people say no, they're not saying no right away. They're saying no for now. But if you maintain the relationship, there may be a point in time where that person will ultimately say yes. But if you fall apart, then it's going to be harder and harder for you to rescue that relationship, right? All part of having a plan. Let's say that you're working, you have a job, and there's something that you were tasked to do, and then it didn't get done. And there's no way that you're going to be able to get it done before it's due. So what do you have a decision to make. You can make something up, which may or may not work, or you can essentially come up with a reason why it didn't get done and provide a more realistic timeline, right? A lot of times what ends up happening is that people are scrambling and they're working weekends to try to catch up, as opposed to having a plan, a detailed plan to get it done ahead of time. If you have a task that needs to get done by Monday, the ideal thing is to get it done at least 2 to 3 business days before it's due. And the reason you want to do that is that it allows buffer time for unforeseen things. So let's say that, for instance, someone in your house gets sick, or maybe you have to go out of town, or there's things that are out of your control. Because you added in buffer time, you were able to have enough time to finish it. And if those things don't happen, then you can proofread, you can, basically do quality control before you send it out. But one habit that people who don't manage their time well have is that they overschedule, they overcommit, they overpromise. And it's something that I've done too many times, more times than I want to admit, is that we tend to over promise and then under deliver, and that's never good, right? So what you want to do, again, it's all about mental planning. It's all about planning. Okay, this is going to take X amount of time. I'm going to finish this ahead of time, so I have enough time to do the things that I need to do to make this the best report or the best presentation that it can be. And then, it also, because you're planning for the known, right, it gives you more energy to handle the unknown. The worst thing you can do is not have a plan at all, because you're not ready for things that you should be ready for. And for sure, you're not ready for things that you're not ready for, right? Because you didn't take the time to plan, So the plan for the known, that's pretty straightforward. You basically foresee things that you're going to need. If you're going on a trip, if you're going on a flight, you're going to need your passport or your ID. You're going to need your boarding pass. You're going to need, you're going to need to make sure that, your liquids are poured out before you go through security. You want to wear shoes that are easy to get on, easy to get off, because you got to take your shoes off. You want to make sure that you have your electronics, have your chargers, and all these things, right? So, a couple of years ago, I started making a list of all the things that I would take on a trip. And I share that with my family. And so when we do that, we leave a lot less things now because we're planning for the known. Now, the unknown is a little something different, because if it's not known, how can you plan for it? And basically, planning for the unknown is making a decision to course correct. You've got to be able to course correct. Course correction is a master skill of success. All successful people who have either maintained success, had success, lost it, and regained it have the ability and have mastered the ability to course correct. Oftentimes, our plans are not going to work out. And it's not because we didn't have enough faith or enough belief. It's because it's life. And there's so many factors that are not in our control. So you've got to be able to course correct, and you have to have the confidence in yourself to course correct. It's said that 90% of a flight plan, when planes take off, 90% of a flight plan is changed throughout the course of the flight. So that pilot has to understand, and I'm sure has trained, to expect the course correction, expect to have to change course, change the route. And maybe the change is not that much, right? And oftentimes when you look at a flight plan, because you can look at this online now, when you look at a flight plan and then you look at the actual flight path, there's not a whole lot of deviation unless there's a storm. But the plan had to be made. So it's not that you don't make a plan. It's just that pilot needed to be able to correct the path of the plane to ensure a safe arrival. And so your ability to course correct is vital to your success. most people who don't succeed is because they refuse to course correct. They refuse to acknowledge that this is not working. One of the telltale signs that you need to course correct is a lack of resources, right? And a lot of times it's subtle because we get used to, being in a situation where we have to struggle to make ends meet, or we get used to having to suffer for a season. But if your resources are dwindling, then it's a sign, I believe, to course correct. It's a sign that you got to change something. Whether you change locations, whether you change cities or states, whether you change your attitude, change your methodology, something has to change because it's not working. Okay? The proof that something is working is the result. And far too often people waste too much time in situations that aren't working instead of course correcting. The way you plan for the unknown is to make a decision to course correct when you need to, and having the confidence to know when to course correct and to do it quickly. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Martin Williams. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Playbook Radio. If this episode helped you, please share it with family and friends. For more about Playbook strategies, please go to GameplanPlaybook.com.